Good morning, class. My name is Gonzalo Burgos, and today's lesson is about lath and trims. I'm a plasterer by trade, and they say, well, you're a plasterer, why you're not a lather? Well, it's true. I am a plasterer by trade. I've been plastering for over 35 years, but when I was given the wall or the building to start lathing, I had to make sure that the lath was done correctly. And a lot of times I had to go look at it, making sure that the corners were correct. The inside and outside corners were set straight. Our whip screed, our lath, everything was screwed on correctly. Nothing was hanging loose or anything like that. That was my job. If I started just plastering over the lath and something happened wrong, where there were cracks or something was loose, I would get blamed for it, not the lather. So before I would plaster it, I would go on and check the lath, like QCing, quality control. So in the union, that's what we do. Before we get to do something, we always look at what we're going to be doing. We're never just rushing in and just doing the job. We always want to make sure that whatever is given to us is set correctly, so when we apply our products, it's done and finished and it's looking good. Okay. What we're going to be doing today is talking about lath. Well, actually, it's trims and the tools that you're going to be using. And there's three types of tools that we're going to be using as far as how to cut the material, how to cut the mill core or the casing, and they're called snips. Let me show you here. As we're going, I'm going to give you a different view of it. Let me see here. So you have the yellow ones, which are straight cuts. You have the green ones, which are for left-handers, and you have the red ones that are for right-handers. I myself like to use the yellow ones. I've been used to using the yellow ones. Along with the lather's tools, we also have dry line, our chalk line, we have our tape measure, we have our cordless, we have our markers, of course, and we have our different types of cutting tools, our knives that we use out in the field. And of course, we have our famous hatchet, lather's hatchet. We have our stapler, our level. We also have our shears, and we have our nips, and we have our speed squares. Along with it, we have our pouches, and of course, when you're doing lath, we always have to make sure that we're wearing the appropriate safety gear. We use out in the field our what you would call it, the hard hats, safety glasses, safety gloves, knee pads. We also wear our jackets because we're cutting a lot of stuff. So we don't want to get cut. We're wearing our gloves. We need to make sure that we're protected correctly. If we're going to be cutting heavy material, heavy mill core, we'll usually be using a chop saw. And we want to make sure that if we're using a chop saw, we want to make sure that we're using a filter, or a safety shield. We also want to make sure that because a lot of the material, like paper, the felt, throws off gases, we want to make sure we wear our masks. And if we're making too much noise, of course, we want to make sure we wear our earplugs, right? So in this course right here, it is the trims that we're associating with. There's also different types of lath, trims. And let me show you the different types of trim that we use out here. This is the mill core that I'm telling you about. This is a mill core. It's usually 7/8. They're different sizes, all right? But this one right here for the exterior finishes is 7/8 that we'll be using. We also have the weep screed. The weep screed is the first thing that goes on the building, on the structure. And it's also 7/8, as you can see, it's 7/8, okay? And from there, we have our paper, our water-resistant barriers. We have our lath, which is our 3.4. It also comes in different types of lath, like rolled paper, 2.5. We have chicken wire, okay? We also have our corner beads, exterior corner beads, okay? And of course, we have our tie wires that go along with it to make sure that the corner beads are securely tightened. and fastened. Um, the types of fasteners that we use, it depends on what we're using, but this is the fasteners that we usually use to fasten, trims. For interior systems, we use a different type of trim. For the tapers, plasters, we use also staples, a staple gun, but it all depends on the type of trim that they're using. If you're using a 1/4 inch trim, then usually the trim will be cut to that measurement. 45s. If it's a 1/4 inch trim that we're working with, we'll cut it at 1/4 inch. If it's a 7/8 trim that we're cutting, that we're going to be using, that will be cut at 7/8. Okay, so every trim has their measurements: 1/2 inch, 3/4, 5/8, 3/8. If those are the measurements, the radiuses, or that's what we're going to be cutting, and that's what I'm going to be showing you: how to cut them correctly. Okay, how to make sure they're cut, and how make sure that they're bent nice and square. A 90-degree angle. If you're going to make a inside cut, of course, some of the cuts you need to make sure that they're cut in a 45-degree angle or a 30-degree angle. It all depends. My job is to make sure that when we go out there, that you guys are able to measure and cut the trims correctly, how to bend it correctly, how to calculate how much you're going to be using. You don't want to be throwing all that excess material. You're losing money for the owner, for the company. So, the cutting aspect of it, when we go out there, it'll probably take around 10 to 15 minutes tops. It's really easy, Some of the outside corners, for the corners, there's a little bit more detailed, a little bit more detail in cutting, and that will be another course. But for now, you will decide what kind of snips you need to use out there, if you're a left-hander or right-hander, or if you like to use the yellow ones, the straight cuts. Usually we have a marker for that. We have markers for that, tape measures, right? The books that I gave you, that you purchased, is the Laughing book, okay? And this book is a great book. It gives all the information as far as safety, as far as handling material, looking at the job site, how to cut material. And page 106 through 110, it shows you how to cut the material in different methods. But a lot of times we can't go by the book. You want to be hands-on. We're more of a hands-on type of guys, so we tend to see how we learn, and by hands, right? But the book has a lot of information. I love this book. I've been using it for a very long time. Ever since I've started plastering, I started doing the lath. They've changed it, and they've upgraded it, and kept upgrading it, because we have different types of material coming in, and which is very good. It's all in the book. My purpose to teaching you this, the lath or the trims, usually it's for exterior purposes, interior purposes. It all depends what your company is doing out there, what they're bidding. A lot of the lath is very durable. It's very rigid, very strong. Okay, it gives a very pleasing look. Once the plaster is applied to it, it's very straight, very flat, very, very good. The plasters love it because they can go from one end to the other, and that's their guide. Okay, back in the day, we used to use dot and screed. When I was a cub, that's what we used to do, dot and screed, and that's going to be a different class later on. But in this class, it's all about trims. It's all about the mill core and the type of snips that we're going to be using. So let me give you a demonstration, just a little right here in this class, on how to cut a 7/8 trim, an inside corner. I'll be right back. Okay, here you go. I like using the yellow one. I've been accustomed to the yellow one. This one has a lot of safety features, just like the green one and the red. They have a safety feature, and it's there to make sure that the snips they lock. This is a good feature. They've always had it. Okay, some of the older ones didn't, but this one, the new one, because of OSHA regulations and compliance, we have to make sure that nobody gets hurt. So make sure you guys are, if you buy one, make sure they have the safety feature on it. So when you open it, it'll kind of be a little thick, a little hard, but after you keep using it, it'll just work to your benefit right there. So this is the milker that I was talking to you about, and to make an inside cut, this is a 7/8. Okay, they come in different sizes, but the one that we're using here, that we use for exterior plastering, is the 7/8. That's the most common that we use out there in the field. And to make a corner bead, an inside corner, just like this one right here, okay, if you can see it, this is an inside corner, okay, and the way you cut it, well, I cut one of them, but it's actually pretty easy, okay, and let me show you how it's cut. What you do here is you make a straight cut, okay, and you go all the way back to the flange, all the way back, okay, and then where you make that cut, you're going to cut it right where the lip is at also. Now if you need to use a tape measure, you guys can use a tape measure. If you need to use a marker, you can mark it, just to make sure you're cutting at the same angle and same distance. Once you cut that cut right back to the flange, you're going to make a 45-degree angle cut also, and you're going to cut it right there, and the excess, you want to make sure you cut it off. Now, be careful with the X's, okay, because a lot of them X's will fly, okay, cutting you, go into your eye, and that is very important. That's why it's very important that you guys wear your safety apparel, safety glasses, safety shields, you know, your gloves. You don't want nothing flying. You don't want to get cut, you know. You want to make sure that you go home safe, okay. And I'll be watching for that, making sure you guys are wearing all your PPE, okay. So on this right here, I made my cut, and all you do to make that 45, or that square, is you bend it. You bend it to the inside. Now, pretty simple, right? Pretty simple. And we're going to practice on that when we get out in the field. Now, we also have another cut, and I will be showing you that right here. Let me get another piece of meal cord. And here I am again. Okay, so I'm going to cut another piece just so you can see it. And this one will be cut to the outside. A lot of times, like this one that I cut is usually on a corner. Let me show you the corner that I just cut on my little mock-up, my little model. And I made a little cut here, see? And this is for your inside corner, okay? This is a little model that I just made up real fast. If you look at it, it gives you the weave screed, then your milk core, then of course you have your paper, and then you have your lath, and then you have your corner bead, okay? And usually that's how it's installed. They go by steps, and every step has a detail, has a system, how we cut it, how we work it, how it's attached, how it's installed. So for your outside corner, same thing. We're going to make a straight cut, straight, back to the flange, and you're going to cut that lip also. And for the outside corner, it's even simpler. All you're going to do is just bend it to the outside, and then you have your outside corner. These outside corners are used for windows, inside windows, if you're going to use the caulking, okay? Sometimes we use them as a bottom one, as a bottom flange, okay? And it depends on what the plans are. If you got recessed windows, or if you have windows that pop out, this is where this comes in, okay? This comes along. And this is where a lot of times when you're using this type of cut, it's because it's going to get a caulking in between the window or the door, okay? Caulking between the window or the door, and we'll make sure that we have milk core in it. Once everything's installed correctly, and the plaster is installed, believe me, that metal, as long as it's straight and shiny, the owner will love it. Yeah, that's what he's buying, and that's what we want to make sure, that the owner is satisfied with the work. Okay. So to wrap it up, guys, Make sure that you have your tools. Make sure you guys have all your safety gear on before we get out there. I'll be checking up on that. Make sure you have your right tool, whether it's the green one for the left-handers, or the right one for the red one for the right-handers, or if you like using the yellow ones like I do, those are your straight cuts, and that's my style right there. Make sure you have all your tools. If you have any questions, make sure you come to me, and I will help you very thoroughly on how to make sure that you're making your cuts correctly. Okay? Thank you very much, and I'll see you out there. Thank you.